Hello and welcome to Starbound episode 8, and today we are launching this module up into space. And if you're wondering what this module is, it is a science module with a couple of probe bodies on it and some RCS fuel on it and a whole load of science modules just built around a nice little load of struts. I'm using the standard tug today because that's all I've unlocked at this moment, to launch it up into space, and this has been sped up to make it easier because this was an hour-long episode originally of me putting this thing up into space and docking it with a space station. Now the space station was already put up by some suspicious and potentially nefarious organization, but they came around and told us that they needed a science unit and we were the best guys to create it. So why not assist them by putting up this science module? And as you just saw, the space station's name is Ydmir. So we are just coming up, we're going to get into a 70k orbit, or approximately 75k orbit, and going to circularize there and then get into a position where we can dock up with the space station. Now, as I said, the space station was put up by another group of scientists who launched it from their own launch site in the continent, and they asked us as a collaboration to put up a science unit onto it so that they can do some research while up in space. Of course, this isn't going to benefit us in any way because we've already researched a lot of the data from this local area, but we thought we'd offer out this olive branch, and who knows how it could turn up and affect us later. So anyway, yes, we're starting to synchronize our orbits now. We're getting to the point where we're in the same apoapsis height pretty much, and it's just a case of faffing around with the node here just to see if we can get any closer or not. And it looks like that's going to be the closest for a while. There may be another point that's coming up closer. This is all post commentary, and at this point we are actually quite low down in the atmosphere, which was a bit of a boo-boo on my part, but it's not going to have much of an effect and we don't come crashing back down to Kerbal, which is nice and lovely. But I do need to make an emergency boost to raise our periapsis up soon. As I said, yes, this is all post commentary and 2 times sped for your viewing pleasure. But what has happened here is we are now very close to our target. So it's just a case of I'm fiddling around with the maneuver nodes, and notice that we do have a very close encounter which we can start using to get to our docking procedure. So yeah, we get to our node and we just start doing the 200 meters per second burn. Unfortunately, with this tug that we're using to put our stuff into orbit, we got plenty of fuel with it, so it can actually be quite imprecise with our burns and stuff. So yeah, we're about 8 kilometers away there, which is quite nice. So I'm just moving our periapsis node onto the pink marker on the nav ball, And that's pretty much how I've been taught how to dock. It's just a case of aligning and burning. So burn here at the target node, which moves us closer towards the target vessel or planet, and then once we get to a suitable point, flip over to the slow down our target speed once we moved a bit closer, and move our retrograde marker onto the apoapsis point. At this point I accidentally cut out the fuel just to make sure that I got to a better point. So it's just a case of I'm nudging it over, and I've heavily slowed down our speed now. We're only going 30 meters per second relative to our target, and I'm just slowing it down even more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we stop burning. Oh, almost overshot it, but now we're essentially moving at 0.2 meters per second. So now I'm gonna flip it over and start burning towards the target just to make it slightly easier. And as you've noticed, by just doing those simple maneuvers, we've got pretty much matching orbit, and now we just need to go ever so slowly to increase our proximity to the target. So yeah, not a great deal left to do. And as you noticed there was just a little bit of lag as it started loading in the space station, which is now 2 kilometers away and in counting. So I'm just going to speed up time a bit more, and we do a little bit of a flyby. And you can start to see the space station as I slow down a bit. It's just a case of managing our target speeds, really, making sure that we don't go too fast. And it's just a case of time warping up, getting to a better point in the orbit, so on and so forth, and then speeding up again, and making sure that we keep an eye on the target speed, because we don't want to come in too fast, because otherwise we'll crash and do loads of damage. So at this point I switch over to using the docking controls. It's the first time that I use docking controls, because I normally just do it in the standard staging mode and use the HL keys to control the RCS ports. This is why I have a large amount of RCS on the rockets, so that we can just do very fine and simple controls. And now we're just moving ever so slowly towards the vessel, and you can sort of start making out the shape of it now. And when I say vessel, I mean a space station, because it's a fairly large space station that the other space agency has managed to put up there. It's got a habitation, it's got a rocket already docked up in there, it's got lots of solar panels so that it can maintain its energy usage, and it's also got a communication platform as well. And it doesn't have any escape pods at the moment, but they also requested that we bring some up for them, or at least one that can fit all 7 people that are currently residing on the space station, so that in case of emergencies it can be evacuated and people can be brought down to the planet. But that is the next mission that we plan to do. Then there we go, we just switched to the space station controls. You can't really see it here because it's on, well, we're looking at it from the shadow side, but we are just rotating so that we can get a better position for docking. And you can just about see the shadow where my mouse is pointing of our science probe rocket. So we're just roughly getting aligned here so that we can dock to 2 ports, because this science probe is going on the side. And yes, it is quite wobbly because there are so many things attached onto that space station. So yeah, we just targeted the docking node that we want to aim for. It's just a case of slowly sliding it in, really. But yes, as you can see, the space station in all its glory there. I like the design of it, and so does John Wise Kerman. He seems pretty happy with the design of it as well, and he really gives a thumbs up to the Kerbal engineers who weren't part of our space agency who designed it. So it's just a case of slowly guiding it in, because that pink marker is now set onto the docking port that we are currently aiming for. So we ignore the target marker because that's aiming for the wrong docking port on the camera vision, and we just use the one that's on the nav pool. So now we slow down and just aim for the correct location. Now, of course, we don't have a docking camera on here, which is a bit annoying, and I often, while aiming to dock this rocket, go a little bit confused by the direction of the RCS ports. So as you can see, it does take me a little while to dock and get all the correct movements. I also noticed at this point that I'm going to have to start rotating soon, because otherwise I'm going to hit the solar array, which I don't really want to do, because if we take that out, then the space station will lose a lot of its power source. It's got plenty, but you know, with the amount of research that's going on there, could be damaging. And there we go, we are successfully docked up. So now it's time to evac John Wise Kerman and bring him aboard the space station, I do believe. Yes, that's right. So I'm going to bring him aboard the space station and put him in one of the habitation capsules. Now the tug does have probes on it on its side, so that it can return into the atmosphere should it need to be controlled manually, like what we are going to do now. Because we don't need the additional junk that's on our well, we don't need the additional rockets on that space station. I was originally going to try and dock it up to the spare port, but then I realised I don't have any RCS on it, so I decided that the best solution would be to drop it in an ocean somewhere. And I accidentally thrust into the space station, but it didn't really have that much of an effect on the orbit, so that's fine. That was me just casually checking to make sure that the other orbit was fine. And again, I planned to separate and keep that capsule alive, but then I realized I didn't activate the parachutes on it, so that's gonna crash into the planet. Along with its fuel counterpart stage, and they both splash down into the ocean. Unfortunately, I can't switch to the other rocket, so I just watch this crash and burn for you guys, or splash and burn. Boom, gone. So now we go to the space station and head over to the Ydmir space station. And as you can see all of its marvel and glory. We got the main laboratory capsule at the front, followed by the solar array, the science capsule on the left hand side, or right hand side now, and the communications capsule on opposite to it. And here we are now launching up an escape vehicle. Now this escape vehicle, it's a large crew capsule and a habitation module with enough RCS to deorbit itself should the situation require it, and enough parachutes to make sure that it's all intact, and landing legs just in case it's required. But in most cases it's not. The parachutes should do enough to protect it. Either way, we're using the standard tug again, and it's just got enough lifting power to put this up into orbit. This time Shaarma Kerman is in control of the rocket, as John Wise Kerman is staying up in space to get acquainted with his fellow Kerbal astronauts from the other space station. Hopefully there's no language communication errors between the two, and it doesn't start any international calamities between the two guys, or two countries, or whatever, whoever. Anyway, it's almost becoming night time, but that's not a big deal. Just a case of keeping an eye on our apoapsis, and once we get to about 73 kilometers, we can do the usual orbital insertion, or rather getting into orbit, just keeping tabs on our electrical charge and other resources that we have, because we don't want to run out beforehand, which I have done before on previous saves, and that's not a nice thing. Anyway, we throttle up, and we got about however many meters per second, however many thousand meters per second to get rid of, or gain access to rather, or whatever you'd like to say. Ditch that stage and they should fall back down to Kerbal really nicely. So I'm just lifting up my apoapsis a little bit more because I felt pretty uncomfortable with how heavy that stage was, and it looked like we were likely to just fall straight back out of orbit. But it got to the point where I felt comfortable enough to go back to the horizontal, and then I do exactly the same again and cut out when we are at about 200k orbit, because that's the orbit height of the space station. It's not quite geosynchronous, but it's about, I think it's 50k out, give or take or something. Not entirely sure, but regardless. Now I'm just faffing around with the maneuver nodes, just seeing if we can get a bit closer. So I just quickly checked intersect 2, and I think I decided to circularize it there. just because it's easier to get into a circularized orbit first and then deal with the maneuver nodes. And what I also did at this point was made sure that our orbit angles were matching, which is what the little green markers are on the orbit path. And I just decided to cut out a whole load of footage there because there was a bit of error, and we have now just got the capsule on its own, and we are using our RCS to dock up to the back end of the space station. So it's just a case of slowly moving it, and I overshot this quite dramatically here because it was quite hard to see in the dark and whatnot. So it's just a case of I decided that it would be easier to just straight on move towards the target port and then re-shimmy when we got a bit nearer. Now we're moving ever so slowly towards the space station, and it's just a case of using RCS to control the direction and speed and stuff, and just make sure that we're doing everything okay. Just checking the position of the sun, just make sure that it's all still there, because, you know, don't want to suddenly look up and notice that the sun has disappeared. Just checking the map, making sure that Kerbin's still there and our orbit is still good. Again, we are still playing this through at 2 times speed, thereabout. Just slowing down our lateral speed, and then we're moving in. So we're coming in on top of the space station now, and then we'll shimmy around to the back and dock up like that. So 50 meters away, and I'm purposely moving myself down, and we're just going to kind of swing into it. Unfortunately, I did forget to put some lights on, and we are heavily running out of electrical charge, which I didn't even notice at the time. So we're going to have to dock this very fast. So moving in at 0.6 meters per second is moving ourselves to the correct point. We're pretty much all lined up perfectly, and cutting all of our movement speed, making sure that our horizontal, vertical movements are all pretty much nulled so that we can just go straight in. And it's just cancelling all these movements and making sure that we're in the correct plane to move forwards. It's pretty hard, hence why it's taking a little bit longer this time. And just rotating so that we are perfectly aligned. And 7 meters away, 6 meters, and we missed the target because we were just a little bit off. So move up and move back a bit so that we can realign our docking. And there we go. We start magnetizing to it, take off the SAS, and we are docked. There we go. So Hana Kerbin, he was in the capsule when we launched the rocket. He wasn't in the tug. So he goes into the habitation, and yeah, we just have everybody in the space station now with loads of people to explore around. We've got enough space in our return capsule to send people home. So now I think I'm just about to go and refuel the RCS in the escape pod just to make sure that we have enough fuel to send ourselves home. And with that, I think it's pretty much the end of our episode 8 of Kerbal Space Program. So I hope you like the design of our space station that has been put up into orbit through the joint work of 2 space agencies. So I'll catch you next time. Bye!